My name is Randy Walther, he, him, his, and I'll be your worship associate this morning. I'm pretty popular. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. Whether you're here in person or online, you are most welcome. No matter who you love, no matter how you look, no matter if you see yourself as a success or a failure, you are welcome here. This morning we're going to be talking about a very influential person in the life and history of the Unitarian denomination. This sermon was won at last year's auction by Fred McCoy. Fred asked us to talk about Moncure Daniel Conway. Perhaps you've noticed that the auditorium itself is named after this person. We can learn a lot from this very impressive individual. And at the end, we'll have some time for you to share your own thoughts. I hope that you'll be joining us in the conversation. We also will be using Menti, the screen here and the screen over there. So consider these words as we begin our service together. Charles Darwin wrote, "It is not the strongest of the species that survive, nor the most intelligent, but the one most responsive to change." David will come now and introduce the Share the Plate speaker.
Good morning. Once a month, we take up an offering for an organization here locally that is doing really, really good work. And today is that day. So today we have Empower House with us, and Susan Sigmund is the Justice Services Director for Empower House, approaching 14 years with Powerhouse. Where'd you go, Susan? Oh, there she is, way in the back, okay. They deliver direct support and advocacy services to approximately 3,000 victims of domestic violence. Susan has facilitated presentations and trainings about domestic violence on regional, state, and national platforms. Susan's a member of the Virginia Department of Criminal Justice Services Victims Crisis Assistance and Response Team and provides direct response crisis intervention to primary and secondary victims of both the Virginia Beach and University of Virginia mass shootings. Susan is also a recent graduate of the Leadership Fredericksburg class of 2025 and was recently recognized by the Virginia Office of Attorney General as one of 19 Virginians to receive the 2025 Unsung Hero Award. She's a graduate of Winthrop University and feels blessed and honored to support survivors through their journey to safety and healing. Let's welcome Susan as she comes and tells us.
Thank you so much. Good morning, everybody. This is my first time visiting here, and I love it already. This is really great. I've been with Empower House for almost 14 years. I'm the Justice Services Director. How many of you are familiar with Empower House? Have you heard of us? Oh, goodness gracious, this is wonderful. So Empower House has been providing support services to survivors of intimate partner violence for 48 years. We are soon approaching our 50th year. It's an honor for me to be affiliated with this organization because wherever I go and people know about Empower House, it's always a really warm response. And I think that says a lot about the work that's done in the community and the value of community support for the work that we do. In addition to our safe space, which provides emergency sheltering services for survivors and for their children, if they're fleeing domestic violence, we also have a lot of other services sometimes people aren't familiar with. We have court advocates that will walk people through that process from the very beginning if they're thinking about filing a protective order, if they have criminal charges, maybe somebody was arrested and they need somebody to go to court with them to help them navigate that process, to be with them in court when they face that abusive partner. We have a lot of culturally relevant services. We have Spanish-speaking advocates. We also utilize the language line. If someone speaks a language that we don't have someone who that is their primary language, we want to be sure that we can interface with people and communicate with them in the way they feel most comfortable. We have advocates stationed in 3 of our law enforcement agencies, in the Stafford County Sheriff's Office, the Spotsylvania County Sheriff's Office, and the King George County Sheriff's Office. So we can really try to meet people where they're at, whether they're coming in the door on their own or they've been directly referred. And we're doing a lot of work with youth and teens, even during COVID. And on an average, we are in our schools from 5th grade through the high school ages, speaking to about 6,000 children a year on safety and healthy relationships. And that's really, really important that we're trying to do that prevention work to stop the cycle early. It's about 1 in 4 women and about 1 in 9 men that will experience this in their lifetime. So it's a very, very real issue in our community. And it's also a very important issue because it's some of the most unsafe times for those survivors and their children. I do a lot of public speaking. A couple weeks ago, it was right before the outreach office closed. I saw some shadows at the door and the doorbell rang, and there was a woman standing there, and she had a child in each hand just a few minutes before our outreach office closed. So I think it's important to say we do have a 24-hour line, a hotline. Our sheltering services are 24 hours. Our outreach office, though, does have kind of business hours. And all of our services across the board, everything is free and everything is confidential under state and federal law. So when folks come to us, they truly are entrusting us at a really, really critical time. But I had a lady standing at the door. She had a child on each hand about 10 minutes before 5, and I opened up the door. She came pushing through the door, and she said, I'm not safe and I need help. And in that moment, you know, even 14 years later and a lifetime later, I've been doing this work for 20 plus years, you really realize like how important it is to have somebody on the other side of that door. So donations from our community, such as you all, help us be able to still be there and to be on the other side of the door when people show up. So thank you so much for what you've done in the past and what you continue to do, and for holding us in your hearts and for holding our mission close. We really appreciate it. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Susan. And Susan is going to stay and will be available to talk if you would like to speak with her afterwards about what they do. But right now I'm going to ask our ushers to come forward, and we are going to take an offering. Everything you put in this basket right now is going to go to Empower House. Everything you put in the basket goes to Empower House. So Eric is going to play for us now. The ushers are going to pass the baskets. I encourage you to give generously. Thank you.
invite you to stand with us now and let's sing together from out of the Gray Hymn Book 346, Come Sing a Song with Me.
Come sing a song with me. Come sing a song with me. Come sing a song with me, that I may know your mind. And I'll bring you home when hope is hard to find. And I'll bring a song of love and a rose in the winter time. Dream a dream with me. Come dream a dream with me. Come dream a dream with me, that I might know your mind. And I'll bring you home when hope is hard to find. And I'll bring a song of love and a rose in the winter time. Come walk in rain with me. Come walk in rain with me. Come walk in rain with me, that I might know your mind. And I'll bring you home when hope is hard to find. And I'll bring a song of love and a rose in the winter time. Come share a rose with me. Come share a rose with me. Come share a rose with me, that I might know your mind. And I'll bring you home when hope is hard to find. And I'll bring a song of love and a rose in the winter time.
Thank you. You may be seated.
Ooh, yeah. Ooh, yeah.
Hey, hey, did you ever think there might be a better way to just feel better about today? Oh no, if you never wanna have to turn and go away, you might feel better if you stay.
Yeah, yeah. You haven't heard a word I've said. Yeah, yeah. If you've had enough of all you're trying, just give up the state of mind you're in. If you wanna be somebody else, if you're tired of fighting battles with yourself, if you wanna be somebody else, change your mind. Change your mind. Hey, hey, have you ever danced in the rain or thanked the sun just for shining, just for Simon or the sea? Oh no, take it all in the words that show, and yeah, you look much better when you glow. Yeah, yeah, I bet you haven't heard the word I've said. Yeah, yeah, if you've had enough of all you're trying, just give up the state of mind you're in. If you wanna be somebody else, if you're tired of fighting battles with yourself, if you wanna be somebody else, change your mind. Change your mind.
just give up the state of mind you're in.
If you wanna be somebody else, if you're tired of losing battles with yourself, if you wanna be somebody else, change your mind. Change your mind. Change your mind. Ooh, yeah. Ooh, yeah.
All right. RE's beginning right now. This is for both our youth and our children. So if you would like to be a part of that, you can. The children are coming this way. I think the youth go that direction. I'm not sure. Everybody go that way. Everybody go that way. Everybody go that way. As they're going, you are invited to join us online at menti.com. You can take your phone and get that QR code, or you can just go to menti.com. And the meeting number is 3771-9484. That's going to be right here for the whole service. It's also old school over there if that's better for you. So if you get lost, you can always get back there. Menti.com, 3771-9484. While you're getting that ready, I should tell you that Jeff Jones is here. Reverend Jeff Jones, former minister. There you are. You want to stand? And your lovely wife. Yeah. So, Reverend Jeff, you were ministering back when the church was at Caroline, correct? Yeah. Awesome. 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 All right. So today we're going to be talking about Moncure Daniel Conway. That's our auditorium bears that name. If you look at the plaque right at the back or on the outside, there he is. Do you know who Moncure was? Do you know who he was? Do I have it? There we go. Who was Moncure? There's a couple of choices for you. What do you think? Was he a New Testament author? Was he the 13th president of the United States? Or was he just a lowly resident of Falmouth? Yeah, if you chose lowly resident, you're right. Yeah, amazing. Moncure Daniel Conway lived from 1832 to 1907, was an American abolitionist. He was an author, a minister, a social reformer, and a failure. He was born into a prominent slave-owning Virginia family. Conway eventually became one of the most radical white Southern voices for abolition, religious liberalism, feminism, and universal social justice. And his life spanned an influential, controversial, and ultimately cosmopolitan life across America and Europe. But boy, did he make some big mistakes along the way. He lived in difficult times, times in which a whole lot of people were wondering how to make sense in a world where wrong was so evident and yet so accepted by others around them. Where part of the population wanted changes, others were happy to live at the expense of others. You and I can barely relate to that, can we? So Conway was born on March 17, 1832, at Middleton, his family's plantation in Stafford County, just right over here, about a mile from here. His father, Walker Peyton Conway, was a prosperous planter, judge, attorney, and his mother, Margaret Eleanor Daniel Conway, was known for her intellect and medical knowledge. The Conways were among Virginia's elite. They were connected to political and judicial figures of the era, and as such, Moncure was groomed to take his place within the Southern establishment. Everyone assumed he would follow his father into law. But boy, things did not go as planned. He did attend Dickinson College in Pennsylvania, graduating in 1849 at the tender age of 17. He was exposed to Ralph Waldo Emerson's writings, and it stirred his interest in transcendentalism and spiritual liberalism. But these ideas took a long time to foment. Initially, Conway seemed destined to follow his family's path, dabbling in law, but then he turned to Methodist ministry. He was licensed as a Methodist preacher at the age of 19, and he rode circuits in Virginia and Maryland. He preached the message of salvation. Hooray! And in his journeys, he also personally witnessed a lynching. Now, in today's world, we don't take people out and hang them from a tree. We do send masked men into communities and gather up people who aren't like us and throw them in detention centers in the Everglades surrounded by alligators. But other than that, we can barely relate. For Conway, seeing a lynching began a time of questioning the Methodist Church's lack of response to the morality of slavery. But it would take years before Conway would do anything about these doubts. In 1853, he entered Harvard Divinity School, experiencing a cultural transformation. At Harvard, he found his spiritual and intellectual mentors in Emerson, Theodore Parker, and other leading abolitionists and transcendentalists. By graduation in 1854, Conway had rejected slavery, religious dogmatism, and much of the inherited Southern worldview. Now, being the enlightened beings that we are in this room, I'm quite sure none of us have had to undergo a radical change in our theology. We can hardly imagine growing up in a conservative Christian home and then deciding that those dogmatic and narrow doctrines were no longer meaningful to us. I can't think of anyone who's made that kind of life change. Can you? It looks like a couple. Okay. So after ordination in 1854, Conway became the minister at the First Unitarian Church of Washington, D.C. Woohoo! However, his sermons turned fervently abolitionist, provoking the ire of the congregation, unprepared for this radical thought. In 1856, he was dismissed from his post. You heard that right. The guy whose name is on our auditorium was fired from his first church. What a loser. Of course, today, Unitarian churches never fire their ministers. We have church covenants. The idea that a modern day church would fire its minister, it's preposterous. I mean, I can count on one hand the number of big disagreements we've had in this fellowship. Churches today, especially Unitarian Universalist churches, don't fire their ministers. Of course, on the flip side, can you even imagine a Unitarian minister who was so out of touch with their congregation over some social issue that the fellowship would revolt? That would never, ever happen. For that matter, can you imagine a Unitarian fellowship who was wrong about a social issue? Heavens, how things have changed. Well, Conway quickly found a new home in the First Unitarian Church of Cincinnati, Ohio, whose more liberal congregation welcomed his anti-slavery teachings. Here he married Ellen Davis Dana, herself an abolitionist, and began his family. But here again, Conway's increasingly radical views on religion, rejecting miracles, the divinity of Christ, the traditional dogma, it alienated many of the members. So let's be honest. Today, we look back on Conway and we applaud his conversion, late though it was. Of course he should be against slavery. Of course he should be liberal in his theology. But the people in his life saw it differently. Conway was exposed to all these great thinkers in seminary, but these radical ideas were just beginning to come out of our feeble hero. Now, today, there are people who think that immigration is our country's #1 problem. They think we're being invaded. They also think their ideas about marriage and sexuality are the only valid ones. And if you disagree, you're evil. There are people who think it's okay for Voldemort to personally profit from his time in office. People who think all government workers are lazy and incompetent. There are people who think we need less oversight by the government on things like environmental issues and income inequality. In fact, I don't think there's ever been a time in history in our country when we weren't deeply divided over various issues. One could even argue that we never ended the Civil War. During the turbulent 1860s, Conway emerged as a prominent abolitionist. He lectured and wrote passionately against slavery, becoming co-editor of The Commonwealth, which was an anti-slavery paper in Boston. Yeah, Boston. He was living in Cincinnati, but writing for a paper in Boston? Now, today, that's no big deal, but I'm kind of wondering maybe back then if Conway was wanting a little distance between his radical ideas and his congregation. The Civil War deepened his engagement with abolitionism. One of the things Conway is widely known for is something he did in 1862. He orchestrated an effort to escort about 30 of his family's former slaves to freedom in Ohio. Conway's family home is now officially recognized as a site in the Underground Railroad network to freedom. Again, now we look back on him and hail him as a hero, but these were his family's slaves. How many times did he benefit from their forced labor? How many times did he see his family mistreat them? I mean, he certainly made the right decision, but look how long it took. Over 8 years after he saw the evil of this institution. It's a bit like Melania Trump writing a letter to Vladimir Putin asking him to end the Ukraine war because of all the children being harmed, when her husband is attacking immigrant families right here at home. Do you ever struggle to know what to do when it seems like most of the world disagrees with you? When the path of least resistance is simply to keep your mouth shut and mind your own business? Do you ever look around and think, this is hopeless? Things will never change. Conway advocated for total emancipation as the only solution to the nation's conflict over slavery. His book, The Rejected Stone and the Golden Hour, urged immediate abolition and sharply opposed both the Confederacy and the Union compromises that were being proposed. He also tried to persuade President Lincoln to declare abolition, arguing it would undermine the Confederacy. And again, looking back, we're impressed, but the people in his life didn't see him as a hero. Do you ever look around at groups who claim to be liberal, who claim to be resisting Voldemort, and think they're getting nowhere? When something is clearly wrong in your mind, do you ever struggle being patient with other people who agree with you, but maybe want a different strategy? Conway became deeply disillusioned with what he saw as Lincoln's gradual and cautious approach to emancipation. He criticized the Emancipation Proclamation for not going far enough. And by 1863, he broke with Lincoln entirely, eventually campaigning against him during the '64 election. Conway, our hero, campaigned against Lincoln. It would be like Hillary Clinton opposing Barack Obama. Oh, wait. In fact, Conway grew more and more uncomfortable living in the United States. His social alienation from the United States pushed him increasingly toward Europe. Now, do you ever dream of leaving the U.S.? Moving to Canada, say? Or France? How about Ecuador? If you're going to Ecuador, I'll come with you. Sometimes a disagreement can become so great that you feel you can't support a government anymore on moral grounds. Can you relate to that? How do you decide whether to leave or whether to stay and fight? Conway chose to leave, but he still tried to influence from afar. Before he moved to Europe permanently, he was sent to London in 1863 by American abolitionists, and his job in London was to persuade the British public that the Union cause was fundamentally about abolishing slavery, because they wanted to prevent the British from supporting the Confederacy. However, Conway grew more and more frustrated with the slow progress of emancipation in the Union. So Conway took a bold but unauthorized step. Conway privately approached James Murray Mason, the Confederate envoy to London, and offered that the American abolitionists would support recognizing the Confederacy's independence if the Confederates agreed to immediate emancipation of the slaves. Now, crucially, Conway made this offer without the consent of Lincoln or any of the other abolitionists in the states that he was supposed to represent. Mason rebuffed Conway in a letter that was ultimately published by the Times of London. Oh my gosh. When this clandestine negotiation became public, Conway's reputation suffered greatly. News of his unauthorized proposal provoked outrage among American abolitionists and officials who felt betrayed and embarrassed, while Confederates used the episode to mock the abolitionist movement. His allies at home disowned his efforts, seeing the plan as both naive and a violation of trust with the Union cause. Facing official censure, potential revocation of his passport, and isolation from his former supporters, Conway had to write an apology to the U.S. Secretary of State, William H. Seward. Oh man, Conway, what were you thinking, man? Now, we could wag our heads at Conway and point our fingers and say, the end doesn't justify the means. And it's true. Conway desperately wanted to get the U.S. out of the morass of slavery, but he tried to pull a fast one. Again, I know that the people in this audience can barely relate to this. I mean, we can hardly conceive of a situation, say, where a president would genuinely be concerned about a corrupt government, say in Nicaragua, and so he illegally sells weapons to Iran to fund a covert operation to fight the corrupt Nicaraguan government. It would never happen, right? Or, lying about how a country has weapons of mass destruction so that you can justify an invasion. Inconceivable in today's advanced world. But poor Conway. This episode marked a turning point in Conway's life. He became estranged from the mainstream abolitionist movement and decided not to return to America. Instead, he traveled to Italy and soon after returned back to London, where he began his long association with South Place Chapel and broader humanitarian work. The failed peace mission exposed by the London press thus ended his official abolitionist role and changed the course of his life and career forever. Has anything ever happened in your life that seemed like a huge failure? Complete mess? Something that radically changed the direction you were heading? I left the ministry and went through a divorce all at the same time. I was utterly devastated with feelings of regret and shame. I had failed in the most profound way, and I honestly did not know what to do. I had a master's degree in biblical languages. Even McDonald's looked at me like I must be crazy. So I've been giving Conway a hard time. Unfortunately, I can relate to an awful lot of his life, and mostly his failures. But look, the guy's doing the best he can. But if you're used to thinking of Conway as some big hero of the Universalist faith, I want you to see him from the standpoint of the people he was trying to influence. And when you do that, what you see is a failure. Of course, failure's not always easy, but stick with me a couple more minutes. South Place, under Conway's guidance, became a beacon of free thought and secularism and reform. He hosted giants of the 19th century literature, philosophy, reform, Robert Browning, Harriet Martineau, Elizabeth Cady Stanton, and others. For a time, he was even the literary agent for Mark Twain. Conway was not strictly atheist, but his religious views shifted toward agnosticism and humanism. Conway was an advocate for feminism, equality, and social progress. His friendships and alliances ranged from Elizabeth Cady Stanton, at whose funeral he delivered the eulogy, to Julia Ward Howe, another suffragist. He promoted the erasure of race and gender from civil laws, seeing these as intertwined with his broader fight for social reform. During the 1890s, Conway's family suffered deep blows. His beloved wife, Ellen, was diagnosed with cancer, and the family returned to America so she could die here in 1897. In 1898, the U.S. entered the Spanish-American War. Do you know what that war was about? Do you know why we had a Spanish-American War? All right, if you said Cuba, you're right. After winning, the U.S. gained territories in Puerto Rico, Guam, the Philippines, and we established a protectorate over Cuba. And this sparked huge debates in the U.S. over the morality and future of American imperial ambitions. Where would the U.S. global expansion stop? You know, of course, the indigenous people of America were not part of this debate. One can argue that it was the Spanish and other Europeans who colonized the indigenous peoples there. But then they became us, and, well, sadly, Conway never said a word in print about our immoral treatment of indigenous peoples. Grieving and increasingly estranged from the American mood of the Spanish-American War and imperialism in general, Conway relocated to France, devoting much of his remaining energy to the peace movement and to writing. Moncure Daniel Conway died alone in his Paris apartment sometime during the night of November 14th or 15th in 1907. His remains were cremated and his ashes interred at Conseco Cemetery in New York. Now, overall, while Moncure Daniel Conway was admired in some circles for his intellectual courage and his radicalism, his uncompromising and sometimes erratic actions led to dismissals, broken alliances, reputational harm, fractured relationships within both the religious and the abolitionist movements. Now, if you're a big Conway fan, Fred, thank you for your patience while I noted the things that he got wrong in his life. And there were a lot, but, and this is the point of this message, he didn't stay wrong. He changed. He grew. What's more, we can relate to much of the turmoil that Conway faced. He was an abolitionist before it was cool to be an abolitionist. He took a moral stand when it was very unpopular. He faced great headwinds politically. We can relate to that, can't we? And while he may have moved to a country that was more accepting of his radical ideas, he still wrote and sought to influence things here in the States. So what can we learn from this son of Falmouth, Virginia? Well, number one, the importance of continuous self-examination and growth. His transformation from a supporter of slavery to a leading abolitionist and later a proponent of humanism and pacifism demonstrates that we're not bound by our origins. Through reading, dialogue, and reflection, Conway regularly re-examined his ideals and changed his beliefs when he felt it was right, showing that growth is an ongoing process. Well, what about you and me? Are you continuing to grow and learn? Are you exposing yourself to new ideas? Are you curious? We offer several adult education classes here at the UUFF. Are you taking advantage of them? There are tons of resources available online, tons of universities offering free classes, seminars, webinars beyond number. Are you stagnating or are you pushing yourself? All right, number two, commitment to action, not just belief. Conway didn't just reject slavery intellectually, he helped enslaved people to freedom, advocated for immediate emancipation, and devoted much of his life to public service and reform. And this underlines the lesson that real change comes from action, not just what we think. What about you? You know, it's one thing to vote. It's quite another to give finances to support a candidate. It's one thing to come to services here on Sunday, and thank you for coming. But it's a whole other thing to pledge to give money every month. It's one thing to give when we collect for the monthly community meal for the homeless. It's quite another to actually go on the fourth Monday of every month and serve at St. George's. Number three, transcending national and sectarian boundaries. By choosing to live in Europe for much of his life, working for international peace, and advocating women's rights and religious pluralism, Conway modeled a cosmopolitan outlook that transcends nationalism, sectarianism, and bigotry. What about you? Are you provincial? Do you even care that Ukraine is fighting an ongoing invasion of its sovereign land? Do you care about the 150,000 people who have died in Sudan in that country's bloody civil war? Do you care that the United States killed about 400,000 Iraqis back in 2003, or that 62,000 Gazans have died this year? You know, it's hard to care for the plight of other people when you're so focused on the shit show that we call America today. The deafening noise of news stories and headlines can make us all dull to the cries of other lands. Well, in summary, Moncure Daniel Conway's life teaches the transformative power of questioning inherited ideas, the necessity of courage to pursue justice, and enduring value of empathy, integrity, education, and action. His journey from conformity to radical reform stands as a testament to how individuals can drive moral and social progress. There you go. Thank you, Fred McCoy, for sponsoring this sermon, and thank you for listening. All right, who has something they would like to share? You have some other, there are so many things that you could share about Conway if you're familiar with his history and the various things that he was involved in. He was a bigwig of his time. He was with the movers and shakers. Somebody want to share or something about the talk this morning that you'd like to share? Kit, right down here. Oh, here we go, Elaine.
Yeah, thank you, it's not on. I'll try to speak loudly. David, that was exceptional. We've heard a few sermons about Conway.
Yeah?
And you did an exceptional job. And I
Well,
don't
thank you.
know some things
Well, thank
I
you.
did not know, and I've been an advocate for Conway for a long time.
Yeah, very, very good person.
What did you say?
Kit? Oh, she was just saying that she's heard several messages about Conway and she really appreciated this one.
After Conway took his ex-slaves to Ohio, I think the town was named after him.
So, John, you want to speak to that? John knows.
The town, it's where Antioch College is. It's called Yellow Springs, Ohio.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's where he brought them. When he found them in Washington, the slaves, he brought them to Yellow Springs. Oh, sorry. Yeah. When he found the slaves in Washington, he brought them to Yellow Springs.
Yeah. Good. Yeah. Karen?
I'm going to put in a pitch that we get really frustrated with how things often seem to be currently and lately.
Yeah.
There is an election coming.
Yes.
Our leadership is heavily influenced by money, but there are a lot of people who want to be able to get reelected when it's their turn. And this is going to be one of the few elections that's coming up in the next few months. So it's really being watched.
Yes. The board just recently approved joining the movement for 100% participation. So you'll be seeing a banner here, and we're going to be talking about encouraging all of our members to please vote. That's the goal. Everybody vote. I'm not going to tell you how to vote, but everybody vote. All right, somebody else. Yeah, Marsha?
Well, I just had a question about, because he did go through so much adversary and made mistakes, about how many dark nights of the soul he had to have, and like to be able to get up the next morning and keep going.
Yeah.
And just your thoughts on that, and how you also get up and keep going after those kinds of nights.
Yeah. Yeah, it's easy just to read, oh, he changed. Oh, he, changed his theology. Oh, he got fired and he found a new church and everything's happy. No, these are hard things to go through. Yeah. One or two more? Marcia, did you want to say? Nope. Okay.
Hi, for those who haven't met me yet, I'm Leo Gregory. I'm a retired Marine, 21 years of active service. I've been retired from active service and a DoD contractor for 6 years now. And I will say, as someone who is a deep patriot but not a nationalist, the things that he wrestled with are things that I wrestle with every day.
Yeah.
How do I continue to support? What is my level of support?
Yeah.
Where do I push back?
Right.
When do you follow rules and regulations, and when do you break the rules and regulations?
Right.
So this is a a deeply meaningful conversation to me.
Yeah. Marcia.
Hey there, I'm Marcia Wilson. I was just thinking how the way the protesting started back those, 1800s, that was, you wrote a book to protest, and then you just hid and hoped that people read your book.
Yeah.
And then, now fast forward to, freedom of speech, and since we're throwing plugs in there, take one look around at all this art that really should resonate with you in our world right now. Sue Willis is over here in blue, and we have a lot of other protest signs
Yes.
and collages of different local people. So please take a second, and if you haven't voted before, that should change your mind a little.
That's right. One more.
Hi, it's Ed. So one of the things that I've battled with my whole life is guilt about the decisions that I've made, the mistakes that I've made. It's something that I live with, and I'm learning how to get over it and learn from the things that I have made. So the mistakes that he made, or the choices that he made, I can understand how probably had a lot of guilt with the different things, but it's about moving forward.
Right.
And being able to recognize that you're not as evil as you think that you are.
Yeah, very good. All right, thank you for those insightful comments. Here, real quick announcements. Our At Your Service auction is coming right up. We've already started to get a wonderful collection of items. We're asking you to please, if you have something to donate, either like you want to throw a house party, or maybe you have an item you'd be willing to donate, there's an online form for you to fill out. If that is a problem for you, you can email me or just come see me after the service, and I will help get that done for you, right? We just need everybody to give us all the information that we need for that. And we're going to handle the auction just a little bit different this year, so stick with me. We'll try and make it a little more fun, a little more fast-paced, so hang in there with me. I hope you're planning to come October the 11th in the evening. Right here, we have special music that's going to be here from an outside guest artist, and lots of fun stuff planned for you, lots of good food. So I hope you'll come and make that a big part of your evening. All right, joys and concerns. Come on up, Randy.
So earlier in the service, we took up a collection for the Empower House, and I hope that you gave generously. But the UUFF also needs your generosity. Most of our members give monthly through some kind of automated gift. If you would consider setting that up, you can talk to David or Jackie about that. By giving monthly, it helps us budget for the future needs of this congregation. We also have an offering basket in the back for donations, and you can also pay by credit card, but see David for that one. We'll now open the mics for joys and concerns. If you have a joy or a concern you would like to share, please stand up and we'll bring a mic to you. Please speak up and be brief so that others can also have time to share.
I'll try to be brief. I have joy and concern. I do have concerns about what's going on in this world, but I will say I find such great joy in the community here and the other people who understand that this is a scary time, and we have to be brave. We have to do what we know is right and speak out for what we know is right. I learned as a kid the difference between right and wrong. I think my father would just be appalled of what's going on in this world today.
Excuse me. Many of us here remember Pete Fields, a musician, environmentalist, and elected official in Stafford County, who died a couple of years ago at the age of 65. Well, there's going to be a memorial concert for Pete at the Central Rappahannock Library, Friday the 26th at 7:30. It's free. And if anyone wants to make a donation, it would be to Healthy Generations. But I know many of us here have a fond place in our hearts for Pete.
Our daughter, one of our daughters, Claire, who grew up in this fellowship, you'll be happy to know, has safely landed in London, where she has moved and begun grad school and frankly hopes to live on and on. So keep Claire in your thoughts and celebrate with her. Thank you.
As we enter the season of advocating for people to vote, just keeping in mind that not everyone that you speak to will be legally able to vote, and they might not feel comfortable telling you why. So if it seems like they're blowing you off, maybe they're not.
Daughter here today. They grew up in this church. Thank you.
I'm sharing something rather personal. My former husband, the father of my 3 children, entered into a great deal of illness some years back. He's in his early 90s. The point is, a very proud, capable, principled man gradually developed such illness. His pride was just quality of life. He was living with my son, helper around the clock. In the hospice, finally died about 10 days ago. He wanted to die for about a year. And even the caretakers would keep trying to feed him food when he was trying to, stop the food and the drinking. So you've heard some of these stories before. For everyone, it was relief and a blessing when he passed.
I'm going to ask everyone that is willing and able to join me standing now. If you have an unspoken joy or a concern on your heart this morning, we're going to invite you to come to the front and place a pebble in the bowl of water as a symbol of what you are holding in your heart. Our musicians will play now, and we invite you to come forward. Everyone else is invited to meditate on things we have discussed this morning. Please join me in saying our closing words. May we always be open to change, always open to learning, always open to giving and sharing. May we create the world we wish to live in.